Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Current Affairs on JTV. Now, all of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the name of Baroness Jenny Tong, who over the past decade has made a series of inflammatory comments relating to the Israel-Palestinian conflict that many believe have veered from being just anti-Israel and into the realm of anti-Semitism. So it's a great pleasure that I had the opportunity of interviewing Baroness Tong earlier today to enable her to put the record straight. Jenny, thank you for joining me in the JTV studio.
Thank you for asking me.
What have you read about this? And what's the best book you've read on this subject? On the Balfour Declaration, 1948. What's the best book?
I haven't read great tomes on it.
Don't you think that's a core problem in someone who has become so associated with this issue that you actually haven't read the literature? You haven't looked at that?
Listen. The core problem here is not the history or what literature you read or what you can spout on the history of a particular country. It's the fact that a great injustice has been done to the people who were in Palestine for centuries before the State of Israel was created. And I'm trying to say to you, I was a great enthusiast for the State of Israel to be created. I thought it was a wonderful thing and I was totally supportive. Even as a little child, I was made to feel that way. And I believe in Israel's right to exist and I wish it every success. But it cannot go on with its present policies of injustice towards the Palestinian people, who in many cases, and many of them have been there long before any of the people in Israel have been there.
I get that, Jenny, I understand it, but we come back to this core point about not understanding the whole history and beyond. You've just referenced history to a certain point. You've said Palestinians have lived there for years before Israelis and others in this kind of context. Now, we come back to this point. What you're saying is, essentially, Jenny Tong's view of Israel-Palestine is literally Jenny Tong's view based on what she's seen. She hasn't augmented her knowledge by looking about anywhere beyond.
And what I've experienced, and yes, I have augmented my knowledge. I have read books by Ghada Kami, by Ilan Pappé. I've read books. Now you're going to tell me, you see, that I haven't read books written by the right people.
No,
whatever book you read, you will find it will come from one aspect or the other.
No, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say to you, do you not think that, again, someone who is so involved in this and has been so involved in her political career in this ought to at least have taken a contrary view here and there and read something serious from them?
I'm not involved in any political sense. I've never been a spokesman for foreign affairs in my party.
No, but you have personal interest in it and you've spoken out on it.
I have spoken out when asked, and I have been misquoted time and time again, and I have become a creature that everyone likes to criticize because of the things I've said that have been misinterpreted.
You said the pro-Israeli lobby has got its grips on the Western world, its financial grips. I think they probably got a certain grip on our party. What did you mean by the suggestion of grips and financial grips on the Western world? What was that about?
Have you ever heard of AIPAC in the United States of America?
I have.
Have you ever heard of the sponsoring of members of Congress and the Senate?
And sponsoring of what?
Financial sponsoring of their campaigns.
Who's sponsoring them?
AIPAC.
AIPAC don't sponsor any campaigns.
Well, somebody does. What I want to say to this, I know this is very hurtful, and I think of all the things I've said, it's probably the one that needs most investigation. What I want is for somebody to prove to me that I am totally wrong. That we have seen last week how the political process in Britain is being interfered with by, I'm sure you must be aware of the programs that were on Al Jazeera last week, where there was political with financial interference.
Let's come on that moment.
And I just want you and anybody else who is worried about that remark to prove to me that I'm totally wrong, and Jenny, I'll be very happy.
Language matters. Let me explain why. Language matters. Had you said the influence of pro-Israel forces, people might have said, okay, don't agree, but nobody would have batted an eye. But you didn't say that, did you? You said, and I'll read it back again, the pro-Israeli lobby has got its grips on the Western world, its financial grips. That's a very different story. It's financial grips on the Western world.
Of all the things
you were
I've
imprecise,
said,
weren't you?
of all the things I've said, I probably will accept to you that that was a bit over the top. It was an exaggerated saying to say that. And it has all sorts of connotations, I know that.
So do you apologise for saying that?
I do apologise for saying that, but I do not withdraw my comment that there is a lot of interference in the political processes of America, and as we saw last week, the political parties in this country. There is interference going on, and money is changing hands, and that does worry me. And it is not, of course, it is not just the Israel lobby. It's all sorts of lobbies. In the United States, it's the gun lobby. Over here, a lobby that has a great influence on political parties is the countryside lobby. I would like to get me onto...
Is money changing hands?
I don't know in that
but
case.
What money is changing hands in the Israeli lobby's case?
Well, what I want to say is please somebody prove to me that I'm totally wrong, and I'll be very happy. But can I say one more thing?
I will, but politics in this country, as you know, is regulated. Donations are declared. When you say money is changing, unless you're suggesting paper envelopes are going around, brown paper envelopes.
Yes, I have been a member of a political party for long enough to know that there are ways around these things.
So you're saying, just so I understand, that in Britain today, secret funds are being funneled?
There could be. Well,
you can't say there could be. You have to either... can't make the allegation unless...
I'm making the allegation, and I'm asking people to prove me that I'm wrong.
Come on, Jenny, that's not how any kind of burden of legal or any other kind of proof works.
I would like someone to investigate, for instance, what Al Jazeera programs were doing and find out what BICOM, for example, is there for. So you think BICOM is funneling money into UK politics? I believe they might be. I don't know.
What makes you think they are? You've got no proof, correct? Let me just. You've got no proof of this.
Because of the sort of remarks that are made. I mean, the way everyone backs off if a criticism is made of Israel, everyone is afraid of making those criticisms or supporting the person who's made the criticism. If you were in British politics, you would understand it. Can you tell me why 80% of Conservative MPs belong to the Friends of Israel organisation? Why a lot of people in my party, my old party, a lot of people in the Labour Party feel they have to belong to the Friends of Israel organisation. There's no other country where that sort of thing applies. And I just want to know whether that is because of the very lavish and expensive trips maybe that they enjoy, or whether there is help in their constituencies with delivering leaflets, with all sorts of things. I just don't like the influence, and I don't like it from any lobby. And I just want to go further, and you must let me make one final point. This is one of the sick things about Western politics. It applies to this country, and it applies to the United States of America in buckets, is that they allow lobbyists, whether it's industrialists or the gun lobby, or there's all sorts of people who are allowed to finance and influence the political process. I think that's wrong. I would like to see state funding of political parties, a limit set on election money and how much you can spend. And then there would not be the corruption in Western politics.
So your view is, therefore, the politicians you mentioned, the 80% of the Conservative Party, the others who are scared, they don't really believe in Israel, they're not supportive of it, they're doing it for some other reason.
I don't know, ask them.
But
Jenny,
I
want to know why they feel they have to belong. They have to join.
So here's the issue then, here's the issue. I've given you a long opportunity to say your point there. What is confusing to me is that you've just said to me you have no proof of any of this. You don't know if this is happening. It's for them to prove the other way, if you like.
Yes.
So why then, rather than make these lurid allegations you've just made, why didn't you go and investigate it before saying it? Why didn't you go and ask people? Why didn't you go and talk to them? Why didn't you do a proper project on this and look into it, as opposed to saying this happens with no proof?
And what on earth would happen to me if I did that?
Well, what would happen to you?
I have asked, I have made inquiries.
What would happen to you? Are you worried for your life?
I would. I have no idea what would happen to me, but I would not be a popular person.
No, but
then
seriously,
it probably,
would you worry for your life?
Of course not.
Right.
Don't be ridiculous.
Well, then what
I'm,
could happen?
I'm an
Then what
old
could-
woman. Why
well,
should
then-
I worry about my life
So
anyway?
then what could happen? What could possibly happen to you that you'll be worried about?
Well, I haven't got... If someone says to me, I don't like the money you're donating to a certain organisation, it is up for me to say, here is my bank account, here is my chequebook, investigate, show me where I donated it. I mean, I don't see that I have to investigate when I know from various sources that these things have happened.
So
I
you
don't
do
know.
have proof then? You're saying you do have proof?
I don't have proof in the sense that I've got people who stand up and say, yes, this is happening.
Well, how do you know it's happened then?
Well, because it's flying around all the time, and it is up for the lobby to clear their own name. It's not up to me to clear their name.
But that's not the way it works. If I said,
But that is the
hang
way
on,
it's carrying
If
on.
I said Jenny Tong is a murderer, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's manifestly not true, but a number of people started saying it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make it true, and that wouldn't be remotely sensible for me to say it or acceptable
No.
for me to say it. But it wouldn't be for you to clear your name in that context, would it? It would be, that guy's crazy. These people are crazy saying Jenny Tong is a
No, I
murderer.
think it would be up to me.
So you think that in
clear
every
my
case,
name.
so you don't believe in innocence until proven guilty. You believe in guilty until proven innocent, which is not the basis of our legal system in this country.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
all right.
All right. All right.
So you do believe
All
in
right.
guilty before innocent.
30-15, yeah.
Okay. The first is on a couple of occasions. You have alluded to the fact that the Israel-Palestine conflict has been the root cause of terrorism worldwide. That's what you said in November 2010. And in July of 2016, the treatment of the Palestinians by Israel is a major cause of the rise of extreme Islamism and Daesh. Where do you get that from? Where's that come from?
Well, because I've watched it develop.
Watch what develop?
I've watched extreme Islam develop and get worse and worse.
Okay.
And I mean, I think the first really sort of, there was Al-Qaeda, but then there was Hamas and Hezbollah that broke away from the rest in the Middle East. And
Sorry, break away from where?
from the Palestine, I'm trying to think of it, the Palestinian Authority. I mean, Hamas was then the rival to Fatah.
Yes.
Fatah is
But what's the
word.
relevance of that to ISIS and Al-Qaeda?
Israel is the link, because they have linked them. They are saying that Hamas is linked with ISIS and that Hezbollah is linked, and they're all extremists. So they are saying that that link exists. And where did they come from? I mean, I believe in the history books that I have managed to read, in the articles I have managed to read, that at one time the Israeli government was very supportive of the formation of Hamas because they were not getting on with Yasser Arafat. So they actually helped create it.
Was the rise of bin Laden, was that to do with Israel-Palestine? Did bin Laden himself, was that the reason he went on
No, I
his
didn't
rampage?
mention bin Laden.
Yeah, but extreme Islam,
mean,
extreme Islamism in
Yes,
this
but
context,
you
and
were
you've
talking
mentioned
about terrorism.
Baghdadi.
We're talking about terrorism.
Baghdadi of Daesh. Okay,
Look.
is his rise? Did he come to power and did he come to the fore because of
I think it has all
Israel-Palestine?
been fueled by what has happened to the Palestinians.
What statement has Baghdadi
Yes,
ever
I
made
do
about
that.
Palestine-Israel?
He hasn't, but I'm
So how can
telling
you
you
possibly
that
say that
people
then?
well, I think you're making assumptions too. How do you know that it doesn't make a link?
So I'm going on.
And, and
Jenny,
I
I'm going on.
want
No,
to
no,
just
but I'm going
ask
on
you
facts
about
again.
this terrorism thing.
I'm going on facts.
You're
for a second.
going on about terrorism.
Yes.
Look, there has been terrorism throughout the centuries. The people who formed the State of Israel, what about Irgun and Haganah and all of those movements? They were terrorists in every sense of the word. The people who blew up the King David Hotel, the things that went on in Palestine before the creation of the State of Israel, that was terrorism. Why do you always say terrorism as if it's a special thing that's been created by the Muslims?
No,
It
not at
hasn't.
all, not
It's
at
a
all.
nonsense.
But we're using your words. You said the treatment of Palestinians by Israel is at the root cause of terrorism worldwide. It's your words, not mine. Your words. Again, do you think you might have made a mistake in the choice of words you've used there? It's not
root
terrorism, is
cause
it?
of
It's not terrorism, is it?
Extremism,
Extremism, even.
which leads to terrorism.
So you're saying that Israel is the reason why, for example, Al Qaeda, Daesh, the Islamic Brotherhood.
What has happened? No, I said
Muslim
that. I
Brotherhood,
didn't
all
say
these.
that. I didn't specify.
Well, how
I
can you
just said at
be
the root cause of
Come on, Jenny,
terrorism.
it's just too amorphous, isn't it? What you're saying?
Well, I think
not
you're being
specific in the
extremely
slightest.
fussy. I don't think you realise
Fussy?
how people actually out there talk and how they think.
My final question for you. You've stated on a number of occasions, I think in fact most recently there was a written question in January 2015. You asked Her Majesty's government whether they plan to encourage Jewish faith leaders of the United Kingdom publicly condemn settlement building by Israel and to make clear their support for universal human rights. Why would you ask specifically for Jewish faith leaders to do that in the UK? Are you suggesting that all Jews should be held responsible for Israel?
No, I didn't say that, and
Okay.
of course I don't. And
Right,
I've
so
got
why
a
would you
lot
ask
of
that
I've got
question
a
then?
lot of Jewish people who are friends of mine and who support
you
me,
do.
and of course I would say that.
No, but I'm sure you do.
You know that's what's usually said. I think that if the Jewish faith leaders in this country were more vociferous about settlement construction, for instance, and were more critical of what is going on in Israel, they would get a lot more respect. One of the things...
Respect from whom?
From non-Jewish people. One of the things that worries me terribly is the way anti-Semitism is now being used all the time to silence people who are critical of the Israeli government. And if you look back at the sort of things I've been saying, I almost always, I can't say always, but I try always to talk about the Israeli government. I do not talk about the Jews ever. I do not talk about Israel even. I don't like to refer to the Zionists because I know there are some good Zionists. There are some Zionists who don't like what the Israeli government's doing. I just think that if people in this country, if the Jewish people in this country who really don't like the Netanyahu government would speak out and speak out loudly about the settlements, it would be very, very helpful all
But
round.
some do that.
Well, we don't hear them.
Okay. Do you think the British Muslim people should loudly attack ISIS, attack Daesh, attack...
Well, they do, constantly.
Well, so let's get this straight. So you hear them doing that, but not the Jews who attack
Well,
Israel?
I
You
do
don't hear
hear,
that?
yes, I've told you, I know a lot of Jewish people, and a lot of them, of course, they condemn the settlements. But I'm talking about
Because you'll know that just as some
about
British
the Board
Jews
of Deputies
clearly
for
support
British
the Israeli
Jews, for
government,
example.
clearly, okay, there'll be some British Muslims who support ISIS.
Well, let us hear a bit more criticism of the actions of the Israeli government from the Board of Deputies of British Jews and the Chief Rabbi.
Jenny, that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for joining us today. And
Once
thank
again,
you.
thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure, and thank you all. I will see you again soon for another episode of Current Affairs on JTV.